All right, I was 1 minute late. Sorry about that. Seeing that it's 4:01, we should probably get started. And the rest of the people can join while we talk. So, today will be the last class of this class, I guess. Without further ado, I guess we would start. Does anyone remember, or have we done the detection with the fish yet? Like, have we went over it, or uh, have we not? Um. Okay. I'll assume no. I don't remember talking about it, but if we did, be sure to just interrupt me, and we'll move on to the next part. Yeah. Okay. We can start here. Um. So last week, we have talked. We have created the basic functional game with uh, a functional game with controls, the ability to eat. Not the. We don't have the ability to eat fish yet. However, we can. We have the fish start moving randomly, and then we can control our fish. We introduced the concept of texture, which is basically how a sprite or a character can have multiple appearances. So let's start with this. I'm gonna put up the parts that are modified and take a look. I'll put it in chat and we'll move on from there. Oh, actually, I think we have talked about this. So, a quick recap. This is basically we're storing the players in a list, and we are using sprite list to detect collisions with, and we would remove the fish, the enemy fish, if our player is larger. If it is not, our player will be removed. So let's move on to drawing the score. So far, since we have the ability to now check for detections, or I mean collisions, we should probably start like adding scores into the game. This score is not as complicated as the changelings one, because less stuff it needs to be kept. So put it in chat. Take a look. It's not exactly the most complicated thing. So all right. It's only these three steps. So let's take a look at each of them. First, we have self.score equal to 0. This is when we are initializing the variable, the score of the game. We put it in self.setup because that's the function that we're going to run at the beginning of each game. And then we have a way to modify the score. So if we successfully eat a fish, our score should be increased by 1, and we should draw that score on the in the window by using draw text. It's another function created by Arcade. What we pass in is the Sorry. What we pass in is the text that we're going to display, the X, Y coordinate, the color, and I believe it's the font. It's the font size. So that's all we have for scorekeeping. And let's take a look at it. As you can see, when we eat a fish, our score is now increased by 1. If we eat another one, it increases by another 1, and the game still ends properly. So that's it for Hungry Fish 4. The fourth step, which is to add in a scoreboard. Any questions? If so, feel free to put it in the chat. If not, I'll keep moving. Okay. Next. So far, our game this is kind of static because our fish can only eat one type. The other, like the yellow fish, since we are smaller than all the other types. So if we want to have a game that is playable or is interesting to the users, players, we need a way to add playability, I suppose, or should I say, like progression into the game, and that will be done in by in this case of having our fish being able to eat more and more types of other types of fish. So for the first step would be just changing the size of the fish as a number, and we'll take a look at how we would change the size, like the image size of our fish. So I guess breaking the I forgot to mention. So breaking this evolution down, it really is two parts. One is a visual indication of our evolution. The other one is sort of the numerical number, like numerical evolution in the game that our game uses to process, like whether you are eaten or eating the fish. So let's first take a look at the internal function, like internal working and the numerical evolution. We only have one chunk of code. So take a look at this and I'll put it in chat. All right. I don't think this code is exactly hard to understand. So let's take a look at it. What do we have here? Okay. We have a evolution function in our player. Something we pass in is the score, the current score of the game. There should be an on update somewhere. Yeah. Sorry, that I'll mention later. So what we have here is we are checking if score is greater than 30, then we change this fish size to 8. If the score is greater than 20, the size is 6, and the score is 10, the size is 4. So basically we're saying, so this is just an arbitrary number. I mean the 10, 20, and 30, because this is more of a tweaking process, how difficult or how easy you want to make the game. Perhaps they are perhaps they are not linear. Maybe let's say if the score is greater than 10, we set the size to 4. If the size is perhaps greater than 30, we set it to 6. And perhaps the size need to be greater than 50 or even 60 for the next progression of the game. So this is really a way to make the game have a exponential growth in difficulty, so making the game harder and harder to progress. However, that number you should be experimenting with what numbers to put there, and it should not be too difficult, yet it should not be way too simple. Okay, let's. That's about it. So I have a question regarding to this. So why am I using? Why am I putting 60 in front of 30 and 10 and using like why am I putting the 60 at first instead of perhaps say if score is greater than 10, set it to 4, else if score is greater than 30, set it to 6, else if score is greater than 80 or 60, set it to 8. Like, does anyone want to give a try or perhaps give an explanation of why that is? Why that would not function? Perhaps this part, like, why can't this piece of code work? Okay, well, seeing no responses, I guess I'll give a brief explanation. So the reason why this would not work is, so let's say we have a score of, I don't know, like 70. And seeing that we only have if else if structure, that means that as soon as one condition is satisfied, then the other ones will be ignored. So this means that even if your score is 70, your size will only be 4 instead of 60 because it satisfies the first condition, then it sets the size to 4 and then exits the function. It would only work as expected if we have the top part as if the score is 70, it will be set to 8. However, if it is perhaps, let's say 50, it would not pass the first condition. Instead, it would check for the second condition. And then you would see that 50 is greater than 30. That means set the size to 6, which is what we want. And let's say if we have a size of 12, we have a score of 12, should I say. First condition would fail, second condition would still fail, and it would only be at the third condition that the size is changed for the fish. And then we need a way to update, like constantly check for evolution, and that will be done in our on update function. We call that on update is something that's called every single frame. So everything in this code is run 60 times a second, and this is one of them. So every time we change, every time we perhaps modify the score, we would check for the check for whether the fish size, the player size should be changed. Today might be a shorter class because that's like these are basically it. So we might be able to get out early. Okay. Let's take a look at 5 on the second part, the evolution size. So now we have the I guess I should probably demonstrate this. Well, this number is too big for now. Let's do like the score is greater than 2, the score is greater than 4, the score is greater than 6. This would give us a much faster response and we would see the function much faster. Let's say we ate 2. Now we should be able to eat a green fish. If I could find one. Actually, yeah. As you can see, now we can eat a green fish. And since our score is now greater than 5 and greater than 4, we should be able to eat a red fish. And we can indeed. Now let's see on the purple fish. Yes, it works because our score is now 8, which is larger than the 6 as over here. So our size is set to 8, which means that we can eat any other fish that is not a blue, that is not a big bluefish, because there should always be an enemy that is more powerful than you. So that would keep the game challenging, and it wouldn't like it would still be it would still be challenging if you are reaching the top end of the game. So that is something to keep in mind when you're doing game development. And now let's have a visual representation of the fish getting bigger or smaller. The code is simple. That's all we have. Take a look at this. I'll put it in paste bin. All right. Not much has changed in this. So what do we have here? Rick. Actually, sorry. Okay. Self dot scale. As you can see, this is the only thing that's different from the uh, previous what is it? Piece of code. And what this is self dot scale is an arcade arcade variable that is that has certain uh, logics behind it. So self.scale is basically a arcade way of saying how big they should set the player character to be. So what we have here is we are changing the image size. Perhaps the default scale is 1, and as the fish is getting larger, we are changing its size by 0.2, 0.1, and 0.2. So this gives us a visual aid on how our fish is doing, and I guess to demonstrate it, I'm gonna change this to a smaller number. Let's see. As you can see, our fish just got that much bigger. It just got bigger again. And if I, yeah, and that's the last time it's going to increase size. And now, I guess it's just an indicate. Now we can have a visual indication of how big our fish is, or like what kind of fish, what kind of enemy our fish can eat. Yeah, that's it for 5B, or that's it for step 5, which is basically changing, basically adding evolution and progression into the game. So feel free to ask any questions, and we will move on to step 6 next. Can I get a show of hands on, like, does anyone want to talk, like, perhaps let me explain a little more about if else if structure with like overlapping conditions. If so, uh, well, if you think that's enough, just raise your hand or perhaps give me a signal that I should probably move on and stop rambling. Can I take that as a talk more or as a move on? I kind of need some sort of indication. Okay. Well, seeing that we do have more time than we probably need, so let's go in a little more depth about it, or perhaps just show another example of it. Like since Hungry Fish is now getting quite large, a few hundred lines, well, a hundred lines plus, a little short, a little less than 200. So let's have a simpler code that does the same thing. If A is greater than 60, A is greater than this would actually be better if if A is greater or equal to 10, then print A is a two-digit number. Two-digit number. And last condition, if it's greater than 1,000, then print A is a four-digit number. Okay. So if everything works correctly, we should be getting well, A is a three-digit number. So, but however, if we do run this code, we would see that A is only a two-digit number. So why? This, as I explained before, if and else if structures are kind of funky because, well, not funky. It's really useful because, in most cases, because it can help us eliminate overlapping conditions. So let's say, since we let's use A as example, 1, 2, 3. Is it larger than 10? Yes, it is. A is larger than 10. Therefore, we print out A is a two-digit number. However, since we have else if, that means that else if only will be checked if the first if, or if the if is false. So since this top if is true, that means that the else if is never the else if is never ran. So how we would fix that is by simply switching the order. This will be kind of annoying. So by switching the order, we would now get the correct output. A is a three-digit number. So why? Because as I said before, if the if condition is false, then we will go into the next else if condition. So that means that we should put 1,000 on top, and then 100 lower below, then 10 at the bottom. So this would allow us to check. This would allow us to give this would give us the right answer because A is not larger than 1,000, yet it is larger than 100. Therefore, it would go into this branch instead of the top branch. But why? But what would it look like if it is expand it out. Let's say why are we using else if instead of why are we using else if we can just use multiple ifs? Well, this is else. Execution is 99. Oh, no, it's 10. Okay. This would result the same result, and would yield the same result for as the top one. But why aren't we using this? So there are a few reasons. First, it decreases runtime, so the efficiency of the code is greatly increased. And two, this is repetitive, and it's sort of useless. Well, like part of it is useless. So as you can see, we have none of these conditions ever actually sort of overlap. So 10 and between 10 and 100 is a condition. Between 100 and 1,000 is a condition. Between 1,000 and 10,000 is another condition. So as you can see, we have connected. We don't have overlapping conditions. We have connected conditions. So you see the 100, these two could be simplified. We have 1,000, and these two could be simplified. So if we figure out a way to make sure that as we move down the if conditions, we are adding stricter and stricter conditions to the we are acting stricter and stricter checks for the value, then we could greatly reduce the amount of code we can write. And this is just another case. So that's all I have for the if condition, and seeing that it's actually working. Both of them do return the same value. Let's move on to 6. 6 is the last step. It's a pretty big step, because we have 6A, B, C, D, E, and F. But 6 is as the last step, we should have some. We should probably polish our game and do some refinements. Okay. What do we have here? So far there is no way of actually ending the game. Now we have with this code, but with step 5, there is actually no way of ending this game. As you can see, our fish is deleted, but our character is still there. So that means that the game is actually still running, and it's not what we want as a game. So let's so let's take a look at what we have. What is added into this new part of the code? What is new? That is what is added to this piece of code. Let's just say that. Okay, that should be plenty of time. So let's take a look. Where should we start? Okay, let's start from setups as usual. We in the Hungry Fish setup program function, we have self.status. Well, we are creating two more variables. One is called status. One is game over. I did not have this part. So this is also something new added to this code. Let me just highlight it out. So let's take a look at this actually. This, I suppose. It's not that much different from our initial player sprite. What we have here is basically we're passing in an image and putting it at the middle of the screen. Nothing fancy here. So yeah. Oh, also by the way, it inherits the sprite class, so it's used to display a sprite basically. Okay, let's come back here. We're creating a character called game over with status, with status as its class. We are using the game over PNG as the sprite appearance, I guess. So this is basically the game over. I actually just reused it from change lanes because yeah, it saves a bit of time. So now we've just created self dot game over. Yet we should not be drawing it right after the right as the game starts. So I mean, self dot status represents whether the game is playing or not. If it is playing, then it's not over. Therefore, the condition is false. If it is over, then it will return true. Okay, so what do we have here? This is an undraw. That means that this is a function to put stuff on the screen. So if we're checking if the game is over. If it is over, then we will draw the self.gameover character on the screen. If it's not, then it's not going to be drawn, obviously. Then we have, let's take a look at undraw. So last week I showed not last week, a long time ago when we were doing change lanes, I showed a way of how ending the game, which is by indenting everything in here over a tab and then checking if not game status. That means that if the game is still running, if the game is running, then we would just indent everything, and this piece of code will now only run if the game is running. Now I'm showing another way with it's sort of like, this is more like a modular approach to the game mechanic rather than as a whole. So what this does is if the game is ended, then just return without doing anything. I think I mentioned it before. So if you return, if it is returned, then everything below the code would not be processed. So showing this in example, let's just use this. Let's create a digits function, digits a, and then we could just put this piece of code in. There. These, type these. Okay. Digits a. Okay. Just showing that it still works. Here it is. A is a 3-digit number. However, if we adding something like if a is less than 10, let's say that's not what we want. So let's just let's say if it is a 10, then we just return everything. So what do we have here? As you can, let's change the number A to perhaps, let's see, 1. Oh, nothing is returned. So this is I guess another demonstration of if return is a Python, in Python return, well, actually in most of the languages, I believe, return is an indication of ending the code here, ending the process here, and return whatever value that is false return, perhaps like that follows return out of the code. You don't actually have to return anything. You could just do return, and it works. So, however, anything that is below return would be ignored by the code because the code only would only reach here and end the function. So it is really good for you if you want to terminate a certain process if a condition is met or something along the lines. What do we have here? Okay, so for us knowing that, we have looking at this. If the game is over, then just return without running anything below. So that means that whenever whenever on update is called, it would only be running if on update is called and the game is over, it would only be just returning nothing back and ending the code right away. So let's show this in action just to show that everything still works. You can still eat fish, you can still move. However, if you're killed or get eaten, the game over sign pops up and the game freezes. You see the fishes are not moving, you cannot control anything, and yeah. Any questions so far regarding to the return or perhaps how the true and false Boolean thing works? All right, let's move on. This code is getting lengthy. Let me put it here. How important is the bottom line? The bottom is fine. Yeah, we can't see it. So. Here is the code. I'm gonna move down a bit for you to see the bottom part. Okay. Let's keep going. Okay, this I guess no further explanation is really needed. Oh, by the way, I changed this to game over because we have another game pause status, and I thought it would be confusing, so I just modified it a little. Okay, what do we have here? Same thing. So this is another status. It's called game pause because so far we have no way of pausing our game, and that might be frustrating for some of the players. So yeah, we are creating a pause menu. Pause the game. Now we are creating a separate pause to store the image game pause, which is over here. It's just a pause button, nothing fancy. 6B. Okay. So no, same thing goes with drawing in it. It's the same thing as game over. So if self-game pause status is true, that means that the game is paused and you should draw the pause button. Now, however, we add in something else for the return on update, or we call it. We over here we have we added an or condition to check if the game has been paused or the game has been ended. we can do this because we can always just change the pause flag back. Pause flag, or the pause value, I guess. A flag is another concept. Encoding is another way of saying true or false, and it usually is used in situation like this. So a flag is like the flag is either raised or it's down, and if it's raised, that means that you should do something. If it's down, that means that you should not be doing something. So in this case, game over and game pause are both flags that are saying that that are basically indicating whether the game has ended or paused. So since they are basically the same thing, with game over, the game's pause, the game stops, and nothing, no responses. Same thing goes for game pause. For game pause, nothing should be responding or nothing should be updated once the game is paused. Simple enough, I suppose. However, we need a way to sort of pause the game. In most games, that pause is indicated by the escape key or the ESC key on top left of your keyboard. So let's write that code. So what do we have here? We are in our on key press. We are adding in another else if branch. This time we're checking if the key is equal to escape, or the phone name for ESC key. And if it is, then we're gonna change the self game pause status to not self game pause status. So this is really a really clever usage of the Boolean type, because there are only two types of values. You can really just it's really simple to change. You can basically use a not condition, not statement to make to basically flip it. So if it starts with true, and you say not that variable, then it becomes false. So let's just name it flag. So if flag, no, we don't do this. Flag equals, that's done. So we have a flag equals true, let's say. I know how to spell print. Let's comment this out. So only one thing is one. Oh, we never change status flag. Print flag. There we go. Let's see that this run again. Okay. Return the flag because that is stored as an internal variable in the function. I mean, at this point, it's just easier if we just put it. Easier if we just put it here. We don't need this actually. Okay. Now we have true and false. So what do we have here? Flag. We start with flag true. We print out this flag and then we set flag to not flag, and that basically makes it false because the opposite of true is false, as expected. So we're printing this out next. Let's say we have this might not be the best. Let's say we reverse it again. Now it's from false, it's reversed back to true. So this is interchange. This can be repeated as many times as possible as you want, and it can also start with false, so it doesn't have to start with true. But that's about the usage of not. Okay, seeing this in action. So let's wait for the fishes to. I just click the escape key, and now the game is paused. There's no way of changing the fish, and well, because it's not updated, now we can resume, and the is now working. Well, the fish is now swimming as expected, and well, that's game over. So okay. Any questions regarding to the not statement, or perhaps well, yeah, the not statement, I suppose, or any other questions you had? If not, we will move on to the next part, 6C, which is another polishing part. That is a way to actually have the game restart on it, like if we want to. Because for now, every time we basically die, we need to uh, we we need to close the we need to close the window because there is no way of restarting the game, and this is really inconvenient for the players because it is not it's really, well, yeah, it's really inconvenient for the users because you need to rerun the code every time. However, we can change this by adding in the restart function. So I suppose this is more important. So let's put it here. This may sound complicated restarting, but restarting is very simple since we have everything set up at the beginning. All right, there isn't much to look at over here. So I'll give a brief explanation. This is another branch in symbol and on key press. So detecting key presses or user inputs, or should I say? So this is checking if the symbol is equal to tab, which is just another key I decided to use for restarting the game, and if the game is already over, because you should not be able to restart the game as much as you want. You should only be able to do it once the game is over, and that's why I have that's why I have the end condition over here. So both of these will have to be satisfied for us to run this. So what is this self.setup? Oh, it's just the setup function we had. So this is like this is the major reason why I did not just put it in self.init. This is which would do the same thing, and we don't need to actually call self setup here. But the reason why I created a setup function is to keep that the option to restart the game in mind. So what that would do is basically it would reset everything as it suggests. It would reset. You would set the background center X and Y. You would set the player back to it wouldn't do anything to the player, but it would you would create another player. It would overwrite the original player, and it would overwrite the elapsed time, the spawn, the num, the score, the status, the statuses, and that is the sole reason why we are doing this, and why we are putting it. That was, ignore that. But that's not all we have, because you still need to you still need to show the user how to restart. So this is where the like flashing press tab to restart notification comes in. So if the game is over, that means then we should be drawing. We should draw it. We should tell the user how to restart. So we are checking if this is basically saying if it is 2 seconds apart from the last time. That means if it is, that means you should probably that means it should be probably be drawn. So how should I put it? So I guess the easiest way is to show it in action. You see, this is drawn every 2 seconds, and it shows up for a second, and yeah, sorry. So if it is 2 seconds, then we will be drawing this for 1 second, and it will be drawn with the text. Press tab to restart. Well, with the screen with the x coordinate in the middle. Yet it is 150 pixels lower. That is to keep that is to make sure that game over is not overlapping with the restart notification. We're setting the color to white, 20, blah blah blah. This is what I would like to talk about, I suppose. This is, I think this is useless. Just make sure I'm gonna run this before I do any explanation. Okay, yeah. So anchor X, anchor Y. This is sort of a new concept. So this is changing the where the dot is placed in the game. That is a terrible explanation, but basically it's indicating where this set of coordinates is in the text. So anchor X in the center, that means that the game that the X coordinate of the X coordinate is at the center of the text, and the same thing goes for anchor Y. That sounded really complicated, but let me show you in the in a separate code with minimum stuff, so we can have a better look at it. Okay, we need to let's put it on in the bottom. Arcade. We have 12 and def and draw dot star and render. That's okay. That is actually not the bad worst suggestion I think. So let's accept. Now, can I not accept this? Okay, it's fine. I'll draw this later. Let me get the variables working. If name is window equals text, cool. Arcade run. Arcade. Okay, button. Soft dot. With dependent to. Okay. This is center. Now let's do a few of those and show. This is left. Close. Top, I suppose. Yeah, I'll just show them one at a time. might be easier. As you can see, we are setting it to the middle of the field. So the dot is over here. We draw dot with. Okay, this should be now better. If it could run, that would be appreciated. Draw point. That's what the arcade syntax is. Okay, so now as you can see, the 0, 0 is over here, and we are, and this is x aligned center, y anchored center, and this is what we get. However, if we change anchor x to left, that as you can see, now it's aligned to the leftmost, yet the y is still in the middle. Now let's take a look at left on top. I'll change this accordingly. As you can see now, this is lined left and top over here, and I don't think I need to show more of this because it's the same thing, and you could just do it left and bottom, right and bottom, and stuff like that. So this is a really useful way of adding controls to your text. You don't always have to have it on the bottom left, which is the default for text. If I can show you here, yeah, as you can see, it's on the bottom left. This is the default of arcade, and having extra variables for us to be able to modify is really helpful. Okay, getting back on track, we have 6C, and this is basically just drawing it in the middle. We move this on top of the return because self.elapsed time should not be changed even though the game has been paused. So this is just a way of making sure that this thing actually blinks, or else if this is on the bottom and return is on top, that means that the elapsed time will also be paused, and this thing would never actually be drawn. So just keep that in mind. And seeing it in function, let's see if I can actually, oh, that's a lot of bluefish. So let's just end it. So as you can see now, press tab to restart is shown. And if I do press tab, the game is actually restarted, and just like new. So that's it for 6C. And since it's 5 o'clock over here, so let's take a break and we will went over D, E, and F. Just for simplicity's sake, I'll put this in the chat. So yeah, I'll put this in chat so you can take a look at it. Oh, I forgot to mention, but come back at 5:10. For the people who are already gone, I'll put one in chat to basically remind them. All right. Seeing it's 5 to 11, you should probably continue. So, okay. Uh, that should be enough time for 4 lines of code, I suppose. So what do you have here? Our game currently is just like 30 years ago. No sound whatsoever. 30, 40. Half a decade ago, let's say that. There's no sound. So how can we change that? Well, simple. Let's add sound. Okay, that was not what I was meant to say, but so in the resource file, as you can see, we have two sound files. One is each sound, one is game over sound. So I'd like to share the screen with audio. So let me share sound. Okay. You should now be able to hear it. I guess I can't play it here, but we will later. So we have two sounds. Arcade has a way of loading in sounds called load sound and passing the file. The best way of passing the files is with a WAV file for games, because MP3 files, although they might work, it is not a guarantee. And however, WAV file is a guaranteed work, so use WAV as much as possible. We are creating two sounds: self-eat sound and self-game over sound. One is the sound when you eat some fish. One is the sound when the game ended or get eaten. So, having the sound ready, we need to consider when are we going to use these sounds. And by its name, each sound should be run when player eats something. So we are going to go into this if condition and play it when the game is when you eat a fish. Otherwise, and same thing goes for game over. You would run it when the game is over. Well, you play the sound before the player gets killed and the game is over. Simple. So let's show it in action, I suppose. I hope you can hear this, but there's no fish. There's no yellow fish. Kind of tragic. As you can see, I hope as you can hear, that was a crisp chopping sound, I suppose. Well, like that. However, if the game is, if you get eaten, you hear that like sound. I don't know how to describe it, but it reminds me of game end, game over. So we can always restart the game, and everything still works as normal. Therefore, the game adding game sound is now a success. These tabs. 2 more steps. We're almost there. Now we're going to take a look at another important thing in game development. So as of right now, the score increases by 1 whenever you eat a fish. However, not all fishes are equally scored. That means that there is no bonus for you to eat larger fish. So like other games, harder enemies to defeat or bosses give you more XP than like the ones right outside of spawn area. So we would utilize the same method and add different scores to each fish. However, you might be asking, if our fish evolves to a certain size and the size below that fish has the same difficulty to eat because there's no effort put into eating. So should we still have a different scale? Should we have a different score for each fish? My answer to this is yes. However, with a catch. And the catch is there are different spawn rates for each type of fish. So let's say green fish, yellow fish give 1 point, and purple fish give 5 points. Purple fish would only have, let's say, 1/5 or 1/6 of a chance to spawn than yellow fish. That would give so that basically tells the player to never eat as many yellowfish as possible, yet never miss a purple fish. So because purple fish gives more points, yet it spawns less frequent, that means you should utilize the chance as much as possible. It's better to miss a yellow fish than to miss a purple fish, or same thing, red fish, green fish. It's better to miss a lower point fish. And how would that be achieved? Let's work on the scoring part first. Simple. Since we already set the size, we can always just put the score here as well. Right now, I'm just putting arbitrary numbers in 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Although we would never be able to eat bluefish, we have a 5 over there just to add, just to have uniform data types. This might be a new expression for most of us, I suppose. This is a set. So with this is like a dictionary, but different. So let's say yeah, that's fine. And B is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. 4. Okay, simple code. That's a little annoying. Yeah, it's readable, I suppose. Let's all look over here. After running demo, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, and 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, and 10. So as you can see, the syntax is the same between B and A, except one's parentheses, one's squared brackets. So let's experiment more with it. Maybe the index is different. Let's check that out. Oh, the index is the same. Maybe let's try setting a 0. Setting a 0 to perhaps up. And let's do the same thing for B. Let's just print A and print B. And an error occurred. So this type of data is called a tuple. Tuple is just like a list, but it is you cannot modify it after creation. So it is like something that can only be created once and called. As you can see, it does not support item assignment. So you can't set it to any value. Same thing. Also, you can't do append. Maybe append a number 0 at the end. Let's see what to do the same for A. Another error. Tuple object does not have attribute append. So tuple is a data type that cannot be modified in anyways. So once B is assigned, it is assigned. There's no way of changing it, and this creates So this is a really useful data type when you do not want the program or to modify this in any other ways. So it is like constant, like it's something that you should not, that's something you cannot modify. So this comes in very handy, and I thought I would just put it in here because it's something good to know, I guess. So it's just like a list though, except you cannot modify it. So the first index 0 stores the size of the fish, index 2 stores the points of the fish. And now all we need to do is basically, instead of changing the, it's over here. So we need to modify the creation a little bit. Since we have now we have two values in our we now have two numbers in our value, we need to use index and take out them individually. So this is same thing. So we're taking out the value from of a key, and then we're taking out the first value in the value. We're taking out the first number in the value or in the tuple, and that is the enemy size. And we are using the second value as the score. And then over here, we are instead of adding 1 every time, we are using the enemy's score as a way of changing it. So showing, and that's all for the score changing. And showing this in function, you would see that, pay attention to the bottom left. I don't know if I can find a yellowfish, tragically. Here. You see scores increased by 1. Oh, actually, there is no way for us to actually change this. Well, it would be hard for us to change the size. So let's move this and write a pass, and let's change our size to 10. So yeah, it's a little trick to just modify the code a little bit so you can debug it. As you can see, a green fish is worth 2 points. A yellow fish is worth 1 point. A red fish is worth 3 points. What was that? A blue fish is worth 5 points. A purple fish is worth 4 points, but for some reason they're not showing up. There we go. It went from 27 to 31, so it's worth 4 points. Now let's just delete this. Revert this back. Okay, so this is just showing that it is working. Now the points are varied. Okay, remember the last step. Remember how we talked about that the spawn rate should be modified? Yeah, so that's what we're going to be doing next. There really isn't much difference, except with this new method, I suppose. It's in the random module. It's called choices. Unlike choices give you more control. You can choose multiple times in a list, and you can even pass in the probability of each one being chosen. So the first thing doesn't change yet. You need to pass in a second parameter. That is the spawn rate. The spawn rate can be needs to correspond with the list pass in the first parameter, yet it should add up to 1. So no matter how many variables there are, and no matter how many things are in the list, they should all add up to 1. So over here, we have the blue fish spawning most often because that's the enemy. Yellow fish spawning the second often, so we can score. We can level up. Then each fish gets gradually harder to find. Since it can return multiple choices, a random.choices returns a list. Therefore, we need to take out the first choice in the list. Although there's only 1 to be fair, but we still need to do that. And after running our final code, you would see that the blue fish spawns the most often, then it's the yellowfish. Yellowfish spawns next often, and the other types of fishes spawn less and less often. So now this is the complete code, and which will be our last project. However, I do want to show the random dot choices in a little more depth. So random. So let's have A equals a list. Let's have the chance. Let's have the let's say I can't think of a better name for 10,000, 100,000, I suppose. Let's store four values in it. 0, 0, 0, 0. This is just initialization. Uh, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 1, 2, 3. So let's do 0.1, 10%, 20%, 30%, and 40%. Let's do that. Why is it giving me an error? Oh, obviously because why is it still giving me an error? I'm gonna ignore that and hopefully it runs. Oh, this is extra. So there we go. So let's run this. Okay. I forgot to print out occurrences. Okay, what do we have here? Actually, let's run this multiple times. Let's do this 10 times. Okay. Now let's take a look at the results. So remember that this is 10%, 20%, 30%, and 40%. Let's see. Okay, 10%, 20%, 30%, 40%. It's about there. 10%. I never reset occurrences, so maybe that's why. There. Let's rerun this. Okay. 10%, 20%, 30%, 40%. 10, 20, 30, roughly 10, 20, 30. Well, it's still random, so there the numbers do vary a little, but as you can see, it follows the about follows the pattern. So this is just a proof of that this random dot choices is working and how it works. So now we are done with the course. That's all the planned materials for the course. So recalling that 8 weeks ago, we have started, we just got introduced to Python. We knew that they are famous for, Python is famous for its modules, and that was shown throughout the examples like import random, import arcade, all these pre-rolled functions that we can just use at our disposal. We then take a look at different structures, the basics of Python, the variables, the class, and even quite advanced materials like classes, functions, returns, for loop, and other structures like for loop, while loop, if conditions, else if, And yeah, and then we moved into a game called Change Lanes. Recall that that is our introduction to arcade, and we have learned the basics of that. And the two classes later, we learned about well, we dig deeper into classes, returns, inheritance. These are really complicated materials, so I think we did we did learn quite a lot. And then the last two classes, we have been completing this quite amazing, quite intricate game of Hungry Fish. Hungry Fish, obviously, there's much more we can be changed, such as, I'll give a few examples, such as when you move the fish around and you pause the game, you can still turn the fish. So that is not very optimal. And the same thing goes for when the game ends, you can still have a pause screen on the game end screen, which doesn't make much sense. Yet, these are like some bugs that I left out, so you can fix it on your own if you want to, perhaps implement some of the things we have learned. And yeah, that's about it actually. We have dug into all these complicated codes that is 210 lines long, so it's a quite impressive size. And that's all I have for this introduction to Python and game development course. Thank you for sticking along in this in these 8 weeks. I know I'm not the best since I've just this is my first time teaching, I suppose, and I'm trying. Thank you for following along and providing feedback and support. And if possible, I'll see you next summer. If not, have a great rest of however long, I guess. All right, hope the school year goes well, and see you. If you have any questions or any feedback, feel free to stay. And yeah, if not, feel free to leave. We are ending 30 minutes early because I have no extra content to cover. I know Christian does have a question, so does have some issues with running the code. So if you want to show us, if you want to share your screen, I'll be more than welcome. Oh yeah, Christine, sorry if I butchered the name. Christine, if you want to share your screen, and perhaps let's take a look at whether. Oh, actually, I think you have shared it with me, so I'll just open it on my side. Okay. Okay, let me share my screen and show you. Okay, let's say you're at this page. Yeah, that's fine. This is the Hungry Fish. Go to shell, and you will be in the folder called Hungry Fish. And then you will do pip install arcade. I spelled install wrong, but oh, you could actually just, or you could just search it up, install it in packages. Same thing. After doing that, it's installing even more. After that, just run our Python space your file name. Remember to do it in the shell because apparently console doesn't like Python. I have no idea why, but go ahead and do it in shell. I don't think it's too much difficult to remove it. Yeah, Replit is a not the best platform in terms of object-oriented programming, especially when there are consoles, and it's kind of annoying. If you do want to go down the route of coding, your own editor is a must. I know I have multiple. I use PyCharm, Visual Studio Code, Visual Studio. I have Eclipse, JGrasp, multiple different languages, Sublime Text. So no, and I think it's running. So let's do Python hungry fish. Oh well, it's I don't like that. Well, at least it's working. So this is another inconvenience of hungry of Replit. It's very annoying and confusing, and this is just another representation of how buggy sort of it is, because there's literally no way to fix it, and it's just very annoying. Although everything is there, it's just hard to compile. Have you tried doing Python hungryfish.py? Bowen, do you want to share your screen? I'll unshare mine.
When I do Python hungry fish.
If you want to share your screen so I can perhaps help.
Okay. Oh. When I do Python hungry fish. It says can't open file.
Well, yeah, because your file is main.py.
Ooh.
So you should do main.py.
No. No.
Bowen?
Yeah.
Do main.py because your file is not hungryfish.py. Your file is main.py, so run main.py instead of hungryfish.py. It's capitalized. Look on your left in the folders, in the files.
Okay, now it's loading. So I am good.
Yeah, that's what I've said last week. Since all your images are in the same folder, be sure to remove resource slash in the code whenever whenever we're utilizing a file. Or you could create a folder called resource and stick every single image audio files in there, so you don't have to worry about it. Cool. Okay. Does anyone else have any questions regarding to that or anything? Yeah, Bowen, as I said, create a folder called resource and put all your images in there and audios, obviously. It should be all lowercase, but yeah. It should just be a folder called resource. If nobody else have any questions, I'll check if Bowen's is running, and if it is, I'll head out. Bowen, be sure to let me know when it's working. Bowen, is it working now or? Sounds good. If nobody else have any questions, I'll be ending the meeting here. It's nice to meet you all, and possible, I will see you next time.